She thinks of you more than she'll ever admit. Not once in a while, but constantly, in quiet moments, in crowded rooms, in the silence between songs. Your name sits quietly in her phone, like a door she wants to open but can't. Her thumb hovers. She types, backspaces, scrolls through your photos, but never sends a word. She wants to speak, wants to feel close again. But fear grips her. Not fear of rejection, fear of losing control. Because in her world, to need a man is to surrender, and she'd rather ache in silence than appear vulnerable. But that silence, it's not peace, it's emotional warfare. You are the thought she can't shake, the presence she pretends not to notice, the man who stopped reaching. And that terrifies her. You were told to chase, to prove, to pour yourself out, hoping she'd choose you. But here's the truth. She isn't testing your love. She's testing your limits, to see how much of yourself you'll sacrifice before you lose your center. And the scariest part, you won't hear the moment she turns cold, only feel the echo. In your doubt, your confusion, your silence. She'll post to get your attention. A lyric, a glance, a smile not meant for the world, but for you. Not to reconnect, but to haunt, to remind you of what was almost yours, but never truly offered. But you are not here to be haunted. You are here to awaken. If you're tired of chasing shadows and ready to reclaim your strength, then stay with me. This is where clarity begins. Comment below. My peace is louder than her silence. Subscribe to the Stoic Spirit for more clarity, strength, and the truth no one else dares to say, because you weren't born to chase. You were built to rise. Number 1, her ego fights her feelings. She's thinking of you. Right now, her heart whispers your name. She longs to reach out, to feel that spark again, to know she's safe with you, seen by you. But something stops her. Not you, not your worth, her fear. She's been taught that love is a risk, that opening her heart means losing herself, that if she shows you how much she cares, she'll be left exposed, vulnerable, alone. Maybe it's the echo of a past heartbreak, or the shadow of a family story, her mother's quiet pain, her father's distant gaze. So she buries her truth beneath a mask of strength. When she feels that pull toward you, the kind that could rewrite her world, she pulls back. Not because you're not enough, not because you've failed, but because her fear whispers, if he knows you need him, he'll walk away. And this is where so many men stumble. They think they need to fix her, to chase her, to prove their heart, to show her they're safe. But every step you take toward her fear hands her the reins. You confirm she's in control. The truth is, a woman caught in fear doesn't need your chase. She needs your strength, not a cold wall, not a cruel silence, but a man who stands tall in his own world. A man who feels deeply but doesn't falter. A man who doesn't need her to feel whole. You must become the anchor in her storm, not the ship tossed by her waves. This isn't just about her, it's about you. Every moment you spend decoding her silence is a moment stolen from your purpose. Every plea for her heart is a step away from your own. You weren't built to chase shadows. You were built to build empires. So rise early, train your body like it's your shield, because it is. Your strength shapes your mind. Clarity comes from sweat. Peace comes from discipline. Build your wealth, not just for money, but for freedom. Learn new skills. Master the art of silence. Surround yourself with men who lift you higher, not pull you down. When you live like this, her fear has no choice. It either softens, letting her meet you where you stand, or it fades, and she drifts away. Either way, you win, because you've crafted a life where she's a gift, not your oxygen. She might test you, a fleeting text, a photo posted just for your eyes, a silence that begs for your reaction. But if your worth stays steady, you become more than a memory. You become a mirror, a reflection of what it means to rise above fear. She hides behind a shield she calls independence, polishes it with posts that shout, "I'm fine without you." But late at night, her playlist tells a different story. Songs of longing, messages she never sent. She wants to be wanted, but she's terrified to admit it. Every time you chase her retreat, you tell her she's the prize, that you're the one who needs to prove. But a man who knows his value doesn't beg. He builds, he grows, he shines, and that light changes her. Not your words, not your gifts, but your unshakable belief. I am enough, with or without you. Live that truth. Train like your future is watching. Work like you're carving a legacy. Read like you're arming your mind. You'll become the man she sees in her quiet moments, the one she can't reach because you've outgrown her chaos. A man of purpose doesn't wait for her to decide. He decides. When she ghosts, he doesn't chase. He refocuses. When she pulls back, he doesn't plead. He presses forward, and she'll feel it. Not in her fear, but in her soul. She'll wonder if she let something rare slip away. But by then, you're not looking back. You're too deep in your craft, your growth, your mission. Her silence isn't a weapon anymore. It's just a signal, a sign of her struggle, not your failure. You honor her journey, but you don't carry her weight. The man she truly wants isn't the one who lingers, hoping for her call. It's the one who walks his path, becoming the dream she didn't dare believe in. Your discipline is her mystery. Your peace is her lesson. Your rise is her awakening. The woman who once ignored you will scroll through your life, watching your progress, feeling the weight of her choice, not because you fought to prove her wrong, but because you chose to prove yourself right. You turned your energy inward and became the man no heart can forget. Deep down, she always knew you were different. That spark she felt wasn't a fluke. But now, her silence is her mirror. It shows her what she pushed away. And you're free. Not because you won her, but because you won yourself. This is the truth that sets you free. You don't need her heart to feel alive. You need your purpose to burn bright. You don't need her words to feel worthy. You need your work to speak loud. When you choose yourself, the world shifts. And sometimes, even she follows. Number 2, the power shift. When you choose silence, not out of anger, not to play her game, but from a place of deep purpose. Everything shifts. You step out of her emotional tug-of-war. You stop chasing every signal she sends. You become a man who lives for his own truth, not her fleeting moods. She feels it. That distance, that calm, that unshakable focus. It unsettles her. She's used to men crumbling, chasing, pleading, trying to prove themselves. But you disappear into your mission. You hit the gym with a fire she can't touch. You build your work like it's your legacy. You read, you learn, you grow. She scrolls through your life, sees your strength, feels your peace, and her need for control starts to crack. She might post a photo, drop a vague hint, try to pull you back into her orbit. But the power has shifted. You're not circling her anymore. You're forging your path. You're lifting up those around you. You're making your family proud. You're learning to lead, to create, to stand tall. And above all, you're learning to be whole on your own. A man who's at peace alone is a force no one can shake. Not her, not the games she's played, not the illusions she's held about power. When you stay silent, when you stay focused, she starts to feel the weight of her own choices. The silence she used as a weapon now echoes back to her. And that's when you rise. Not because she comes running back, but because you don't need her to. You've outgrown the man who begged for her attention. You've let go of the need to be needed. Now, you offer strength from a place of choice, not desperation. You don't chase, you draw people in, not because you learned a trick, but because you lived it. Your silence speaks louder than words. It says, I know my value. It says, my peace is mine to keep. It says, I'm building something too great to pause for chaos. Maybe she'll reach out. Maybe she'll see her mistake. Maybe she won't. But by then, you're too deep in your purpose to notice. You're not recovering from her. You're inspiring others. You're so locked into your growth that her silence feels like a distant memory. That's the shift. That's the moment your world changes. Not when she texts you back, but when you stop glancing at your phone. Her silence becomes your rhythm, a reminder that you chose yourself and never looked back. This silence isn't just about her, it's about reclaiming your life. Too many men live chained to their emotions, not because they're weak, but because no one taught them to guard their focus. Every moment you spend waiting for her reply, every second you obsess over her signals, pulls you away from what matters. True silence is cutting out the noise. That doesn't serve your future. When you stop reacting to her, you start living for you. That's where the real change begins. You look at your work. Is it building you up or just keeping you afloat? You scan your circle dash. Are they pushing you forward or holding you back? You take back the hours you spent refreshing her profile and pour them into your health, your clarity, your dreams. No one teaches men to measure their energy, but when you do, you see how much you've given to people who gave nothing back. This isn't about resentment, it's about truth. You've been running on empty for too long, not just because of her, but because the world rewards men who stay quiet, only when they're compliant. But your silence is different now. It's a fortress, a shield around your goals. You wake up and build habits like your life depends on it. Because it does. You set principles and stick to them, even when it's hard. You don't just chase success. You master the systems that make it last. You don't just train your body. You forge your will. And then something shifts. You stop caring who responds. Your purpose roars louder than her absence ever could. You see it clearly now. The woman who tested you wasn't the prize. She was the mirror, showing you every part of yourself you'd ignored. Your silence became your awakening. Through that awakening, you heal, not by erasing her, but by rediscovering you. You were never broken, just distracted. Now, you're focused. That focus lights up everything you missed before. The way you carry yourself, the ideas you feed your mind, the standards you once let slide. You rebuild it all, not to prove a point, but to stand proud in your own skin. That's where true confidence grows, not in arrogance, but in certainty. She might reach out, or she might not. But you're not waiting. You're creating. You're building. You're doing what men are meant to do. Leave a mark that outlives you. Your worth isn't tied to her reply. It's tied to the legacy you're crafting. That legacy begins the moment you stop begging for validation. Every silence you face is a call to dive deeper into yourself, to master your mind, to shape your future. And one day, long after she's faded from your thoughts, you'll look back and see it. The greatest gift she gave you was walking away, because that's when you stopped chasing approval and started chasing your purpose. Number 3, she can't stand that you're not chasing. She expected the usual. She thought the moment she pulled back, you would panic, you would reach out, you would try to win her back. It's the game she's played many times. Withdraw a little, say less, disappear just enough, and watch men unravel. But this time, you didn't. You didn't text. You didn't chase. You didn't ask, "What's wrong?" You just stopped. And that silence, it shattered her expectations. Because to her, your silence doesn't mean indifference. It means power. It means options. And nothing shakes her more than a man who doesn't need her to breathe. You broke the pattern. You didn't react like the others. And that confuses her more than any message ever could. She starts wondering, is he done? Is he replacing me? Was I ever as important as I believed? And in that moment, she faces a reflection she never expected. She thought she was the prize. She thought your love was built on desperation. But now, your silence holds up a mirror, and she sees something terrifying. You were whole before her, and maybe, just maybe, you're even better without her. This realization doesn't soften her, it rattles her. Because a man who doesn't chase forces her to confront an illusion that her attention was the reward and your presence was the pursuit. But you're not cold, you're clear. You've seen what happens when you chase someone who only values being pursued. And you've chosen something different, your peace. You're not being distant as a tactic, you're detached as a truth. You've outgrown the dance. You no longer need her attention to validate your worth. She may try again. A message, a vague post, a sudden view on your story. But none of it lands, because she's no longer the sun your world orbits around. Not out of bitterness, but out of awareness. You've seen your own value and decided to protect it. And that's when the shift happens. When she realizes the silence she thought would control you has only set you free. Number 4, your strength is in not reacting. Anyone can react. To lash out, to explain, to defend. But the strongest man is the one who doesn't flinch when provoked. You've been taught that masculinity means being loud, that if someone pulls away, you should reach harder. That silence must be filled, that distance must be closed. But real strength lives in stillness. Not stillness born of fear, but stillness born of mastery. When a woman pulls back, most men reach forward, trying to fix what wasn't theirs to fix. They scramble for approval. They negotiate with silence. They offer peace treaties to someone at war with herself. But not you. You've learned. You don't argue with confusion. You don't dance with games. You don't pour yourself into a well that's already dry. Because now you know, if it costs your peace, it's not worth the price. She may disappear. She may test your reaction. She may post, hint, vanish. But when you don't move, that's when the power shifts. Because the only power she ever had was your willingness to react. Now she's left with nothing but her own echoes. You've taken away the drama. You've taken away the script. And all that remains is the calm you built from the inside out. She doesn't know how to respond to that. She can't manipulate clarity. She can't seduce stillness. And that's what shakes her. Because for the first time, you're not reacting. You're choosing. And what you chose was peace over chaos, legacy over noise, dignity over drama. Number 5, women respect distance, not desperation. Women don't fall for neediness. They don't want a man who clings. What captures their respect, what lingers in their thoughts long after you're gone, is strength, not a cold shoulder, not silence meant to wound, but a quiet power that shines brighter than any words. It's not just stepping back, it's stepping into your purpose. It's a man who keeps moving forward, building his life, standing firm when affection fades. He's not playing games, he's simply unshaken. When you chase, you hand her the reins. When you beg, when you plead, when you try to prove your worth, you lose it in that moment. Women sense it. They know when a man's heart leans too heavily on them. That's why she pulls away. Why she says one thing, does another. Why she vanishes for hours, then reappears like it's nothing. It's not always about manipulation. Sometimes she's searching for your limits, testing where you'll break. But when you stop chasing, not as a trick, but as a way of life, everything changes. The world feels different. You don't scramble to reply. You don't refresh her messages. You don't halt your dreams to decode her feelings. You realize your time is precious. Every second spent unraveling her signals is a second stolen from your legacy. You see it now. The men who are admired, remembered, pursued, are the ones who never made pursuit their identity. Strength isn't running away, it's rising above. It tells her dash and the world that your life doesn't stop for uncertainty, that you're too focused on your path to be swayed by fleeting drama. And that space, that distance between her world and yours, it draws her closer. Not because she wants to own you, but because she wants to know you. You stop being at her call. You become a mystery. You stop being predictable. You become unforgettable. She might push back. She might test you. She might not like it, but she respects it. Deep down, every woman knows. The man who doesn't chase is the man no one can replace. In the quiet of your absence, something takes shape. Truth. She starts to see the moments she took you for granted, the times she left you waiting, hoping you'd chase, the posts she shared, waiting for your reaction. Your attention was her mirror, her strength, her control. But now, she scrolls through her feed, and your name is nowhere. No likes, no messages, no trace. You haven't just faded, you've grown. She can't capture your absence in a story. She can't twist it into her narrative. The story is yours now. You're no longer a piece in her puzzle. You're a force she can't pin down, a shadow she can't hold. Your absence isn't empty. It's alive, a reminder of the man who once stood close and now stands tall elsewhere. You didn't turn cold. You found clarity. You saw the truth, not just in her actions, but in yourself. You saw how easily your focus slipped, how quickly your worth tied itself to her replies, how far you strayed from your own path. So you took it back, not with a fight, not with a final word, but with silence and strength. That strength wasn't meant to hurt her. It was a promise to yourself. It said, "I won't wait to be chosen." It said, "My world is for those who value it." It said, "If you want to be here, bring peace, not chaos." In a world of quick replies and endless noise, strength like this is rare. It's power. And the man who holds that power doesn't need to chase. He becomes the one worth chasing. He's not tethered to his phone. He's anchored to his vision. He's not watching her posts. He's crafting his future. And every day she doesn't hear from you, her sense of control begins to fade. You weren't desperate. You were deliberate. You saw the shift. Instead of reacting, you rebuilt. Now she's left with questions. Who's taken your place? What's changed? How are you so steady? The answer is simple. You didn't move on to someone new. You returned to yourself. The self that dreams big, that creates boldly, that leads fiercely. In that return, you became untouchable. She may never say it, she may never admit it, but she feels it. Every post she shares that you don't see, every message she sends that you don't answer. It's not envy, it's respect, earned not by outsmarting her, but by living your truth at its highest. She knows now. That when you were near, she held your time, but never your potential. Now that you've stepped back, now that she feels your absence, she understands what value means. When it's gone, she respects you more than she ever showed. When you were right there, trying to prove yourself, you're not just the man who didn't chase. You're the man who became unstoppable. The man whose strength speaks louder than any promise. Your absence says more than any speech. You didn't need to explain. You just had to grow. Number 6, be the man. She can't manipulate. There will come a moment. A moment when she sees that her silence no longer unsettles you, that her beauty no longer blinds you, that her games no longer pull you into orbit. And in that moment, the illusion shatters. You see, she spent her life perfecting the art of influence. A glance, a pause, a message left unanswered. Most men fall for it. But not you. You don't chase when she retreats. You don't beg when she withholds. You don't bend just to keep peace, because you've stepped beyond the reach of manipulation. And that is where her power crumbles, because her control was never about who she is. It was about how men responded. Now she's staring at a man who doesn't respond. You don't argue. You don't flinch. You don't fix. You move. And when you move, you don't look back. That's when she realizes she's no longer in command. She's not in control. She's in reflection. And that reflection, it's uncomfortable. It forces her to question not just you, but herself. But for you, this was never about her. It was about becoming. The kind of man who doesn't need the noise to feel alive. The kind of man who doesn't fold under pressure or chase after closure. You've learned a truth most men never will. When your identity is rooted in purpose, you're immune to games. When your emotions are not for sale, you become untouchable. You don't decode cryptic texts. You don't beg for responses. You don't lose sleep over emotional smoke signals. You build, you grow, you rise. And in that rising, she either steps up to meet you or fades away. But you're no longer adjusting to be accepted. You're not performing to be liked. You're not shrinking to fit her expectations. You've already chosen yourself. You've already declared your worth. And that declaration isn't loud. It's unwavering. Because clarity doesn't need to shout, and power doesn't panic. You've stopped trying to be the man who pleases. Now, you're becoming the man who leads. You're not here to convince her. You're here to become undeniable. And eventually, she will feel the weight of that shift. Not in her ego, but in her soul. Because when she pushes and nothing moves, when she tests and nothing cracks, she meets a kind of man she's only heard about in stories. The man who cannot be swayed. He's not rude. He's not vengeful. He's simply unavailable to emotional games. When she pulls away and your world doesn't shake. When she sends signals and you stay still. When she vanishes and you continue building. She begins to question everything. You're not reacting. You're not waiting. You're not explaining. You're moving with clarity, with purpose. With focus so sharp, her confusion bounces off you like wind on stone. And in that moment, something deeper sets in. Not guilt, not regret, but respect. Because now she realizes she never truly had power. She had access. And access is a privilege, not a right. She didn't lose your attention. She lost the opportunity to stand beside a man who stood on his own. The silence she once used to control you. It became your shield, your boundary, your clarity. And now she watches from afar, not as a woman in control, but as a witness to her own miscalculation. She may try to return. She may test the waters again. But what she finds won't be the man she used to know. Because that man is gone. Not broken, not bitter, but reborn. She expected you to wait, to wither, to chase, but you've evolved. And that evolution wasn't loud. It was quiet, deliberate, unshakable. Now you don't flinch. You don't doubt. You don't justify your distance, because it's not distance driven by pain. It's space carved by self-respect. And here's the final truth. She didn't lose the man who once tried to earn her. She lost the man who finally remembered his own worth. That kind of man, he doesn't return to the game. He rewrites the rules. She won't forget you, not because you chased her, but because you didn't. She'll remember the man who didn't flinch, the man who disappeared with dignity and never came back smaller. You weren't a chapter she closed. You were the mirror she avoided, the standard she couldn't reach, the silence she couldn't decode. She'll replay your stillness in her mind long after your presence has faded. Not because she regrets losing you, but because she knows you never needed to be won. You stood firm. You grew stronger. You became the kind of man who doesn't ask for validation. He commands it by how he lives. And now, while she posts stories and waits for reactions, you're out there writing your legacy in silence. Quiet, focused, unavailable to chaos. You're not the echo of her games. You're the architect of your future. She carries your absence like a shadow, visible only when the light hits just right. But you're already gone, not bitter, not broken, just rebuilt. So if this message speaks to you, if you've chosen purpose over approval, progress over pursuit, then let the world hear it. Drop a comment below. I chose myself. Like this video. Subscribe for more Stoic truths. And remember, the man who walks away in silence often becomes the one they remember forever.